How many times have you visited an astrologer and the astrologer has told you that there is Neech Bhanga Rajyoga in your horoscope? That means that the debilitated planet in your horoscope is no longer debilitated. The cancellation of debilitation has occurred. You are just delighted. You're so happy because you found out that the world's most influential icons have these Rajyoga, this Neech Bhanga Rajyoga. People like Queen Elizabeth II, our Prime Minister Narendra Modi, former US President Barack Obama, Sachin Tendulkar, former President of India, Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam, Ratan Tata, and many more. Your feelings are just out of this world. And you are thinking that, oh, I will be reaching these levels, these heights. And after a few years, you find out nothing is happening to you. You are just shattered because you were in an illusion that this Rajyog will bring something good in you. But this Rajyog is not happening. Here's is the truth that nobody tells you. Neech Bhang is there in your horoscope, in your birth chart, or anywhere in your divisional charts also. But that may not be a Rajyog. There are specific conditions for becoming it a Rajyog. And you have to understand how to activate that Rajyog. If you are not activating any Rajyog, forget about Neech Bhanga Rajyog. If you aren't activating any other Rajyogs in your horoscope, there is no issue of having that Rajyog. Today, we are going to deconstruct Neech Bhanga. I will be starting from very basic. This video will be divided into few chapters. The first chapter will be which planet is debilitated in which zodiac or Rashi. Chapter 2 will be the conditions and the rules for the Neech Bhanga to happen. And the third, the most important part, is a live chart example where we will be discussing about the conditions of Neech Bhanga Rajyog, why the Neech Bhanga Rajyog is not happening to you, and what can you do to make it happen. So, without further introduction, let's move into part 1. Every planet is exalted in a certain zodiac and is debilitated in a certain zodiac. Exaltation means the planet's significator is at full power. The planet knows what he is doing. And a debilitated planet, the significators are not working in that environment or in that zodiac. And the planet is not at its full power. It is at its very lowest power. This is the basic of exaltation and debilitation. This is a big topic by itself. But let us know which planet is exalted or debilitated in a sign. Sun is exalted in the sign of Aries, which is ruled by Mars, and debilitated in the sign of Libra, ruled by Venus. Moon is exalted in the sign of Taurus, ruled by Venus, and is debilitated in the sign of Scorpio, ruled by Mars. Jupiter is exalted in the sign of Cancer, ruled by Moon, and debilitated in the sign of Capricorn, ruled by Saturn. Mercury is exalted in the sign of Virgo and debilitated in the sign of Pisces. Saturn is exalted in the sign of Libra, ruled by Venus, and debilitated in the sign of Aries, ruled by Mars. Mars is exalted in the sign of Capricorn, ruled by Saturn, and debilitated in the sign of Cancer, ruled by Moon. Venus is exalted in the sign of Pisces, ruled by Jupiter, and debilitated in the sign of Virgo, ruled by Mercury. Now we come to the second part of this video, the rules and the conditions of Neech Bhanga, that is the rules of cancellation of debilitation of planet. And here's the first rule. When a debilitated planet is conjunct with or aspected by the planet which is exalted in that Rashi, debilitation is considered to be cancelled. Let's understand this rule in depth. Let's take the example of Gemini ascendant. For Gemini ascendant, let's consider the planet Jupiter. And we all know Jupiter is debilitated in the sign of Capricorn. The rule states that the debilitation will be cancelled when a planet which is exalted in this zodiac or in this sign will either conjunct with Jupiter or will be aspecting Jupiter. And which planet is exalted in the sign of Capricorn? It's Mars. And let's say Mars is conjunct with Jupiter. Then Neech Bhang is happening, or the debilitation of the planet is being cancelled. Or if the Mars was over here Mars 4th aspect, Mars 7th aspect, or Mars 8th aspect. Mars has got three aspects, that is 4th, 7th, and 8th. So any from any of the aspects, or if it is in conjunct with Jupiter, this debilitation will take place. Now let us take another example of Virgo ascendant, 6, 7. Now Venus is debilitated over here. And which planet is exalted in Virgo? It's Mercury. If Mercury is in conjunction with Venus, or Mercury is having the 7th aspect to Venus. Mercury has only one aspect, that is 7th aspect. So seeing through the 7th aspect, this debilitation, the cancellation of debilitation will occur. Interestingly, you will find that Mercury is also debilitated in this sign. These two planets aspecting each other through 7th aspect is actually cancelling the debilitation of both the planets. Means Venus is also facing Neech Bhang, Mercury is also facing Neech Bhang. Both the planets' debilitation are cancelled. Let's move on to the second rule. The second rule states that when a debilitated planet is in conjunct with or aspected by its dispositor, debilitation is considered to be cancelled. Now, what is a dispositor? Dispositor is the planet who is the sign lord of that Rashi or zodiac. For example, Aries, Mars is the dispositor. For Taurus, Venus is the dispositor. For Cancer, Moon is the dispositor. Let us understand this rule more thoroughly. Let's take Aries ascendant. Let's take Aries ascendant and let us assume that in this horoscope, Moon is debilitated. In the 8th house. You will find out that no planet is exalted in the sign of Scorpio. And who is the ruler of Scorpio? It's Mars. So if Mars is in conjunct with Moon, the cancellation of debilitation happens, or Neech Bhanga of Moon happens. Again, if Mars is positioned in the 5th house, giving its 4th aspect, or Mars is positioned in the 2nd house, giving its 7th aspect, or if Mars was positioned in the 1st house, giving its 8th aspect, these debilitation will be cancelled. The Moon's debilitation will be cancelled. Neech Bhanga will happen. Let's take another example for Aries ascendant only. Suppose here the planet, say, debilitated is Jupiter, and Jupiter is debilitated in the sign of Capricorn. Interestingly, Mars is having no aspect on this Jupiter. Suppose the Mars is placed over here. There is no aspect of Mars. And in this case, the dispositor of Capricorn, that is Saturn, is in conjunct with Jupiter, or Saturn is aspecting Jupiter through his 3rd aspect, or Saturn is aspecting Jupiter through his 7th aspect, or Saturn is aspecting Jupiter through his 10th aspect. Saturn has 3 aspects: 3rd aspect, 7th aspect, and 10th aspect. If this is happening, the Neech Bhang of Jupiter happens. The debilitation of Jupiter is cancelled. Now, the third classical rule states that when the dispositor of the debilitated planet is positioned in the Kendra, that is the 1st house, the 4th house, the 7th house, and the 10th house, from the ascendant or from Moon, debilitation stands cancelled. Let us understand this rule in depth. Let us assume we have got a Capricorn ascendant. And for Capricorn ascendant, let's say Jupiter is in Lagna debilitated. Jupiter is debilitated in the sign of Capricorn, as discussed earlier. The rule states that if the dispositor of the sign, that is Saturn, is either conjunct or in Kendras from the ascendant, suppose Saturn is over here, Saturn over here, Saturn over here, that is 4th house, 7th house, or the 10th house, the cancellation of debilitation happens. Or suppose, let me just wipe this out. Suppose your Moon is positioned in Taurus, which is exalted sign of Moon. And from Moon, Saturn is in Kendra, that is, Saturn should be either placed with Moon, first house, or Saturn is in 8th house, that is 4th house from Moon, that is first, second, third, fourth from Moon, or 7th from Moon, or 10th from Moon. This is 10th from Moon, this is 7th from Moon. If any of this condition is satisfied, then the Neech Bhang happens in the horoscope or in the birth chart. These are the three main primary rules for the cancellation of debilitation. Are there any more rules? Yes, these are non-classical rules that applies. What are these? Suppose your planet is debilitated in your birth chart, that is the D1 chart, and there is no Neech Bhanga happening in your birth chart. But that planet is exalted in your D9, in your Navamsha chart. The debilitation stands cancelled out. Now, there is another non-standard rule. If a planet is debilitated in that house where it is having its digbala, that is directional strength, then the debilitation is cancelled. For example, let us take Libra ascendant. For Libra ascendant, Cancer is the sign that is in the 10th house. And which planet is debilitated in the sign of Cancer? Is Mars. But Mars is having directional strength, that is digbala, in the 10th house. So this debilitation will stand cancel out. These two rules that we have discussed later on are non-classical rules, which is not mentioned in any of the classics. Since I am a practicing astrologer for a long time, and many other astrologers agree that these two rules also apply from our day-to-day life experience. Now moving on to part 3. For the first example, we have Queen Elizabeth II, who was the Queen of United Kingdom for more than 70 years, 214 days to be exact. Her ascendant was Sagittarius, ruled by Jupiter, and Jupiter is also the lord of her 4th house, where sign of Pisces is there. In her chart, you will find that two planets are debilitated. First is Jupiter, which is debilitated in the sign of Capricorn, and the second is Mercury, which is also debilitated in the sign of Pisces. Now, if we just revise the rules, the first rule stated that planet which is debilitated is conjunct with or is aspected by a planet who is exalted in that sign, the debilitation cancels out. And which planet is exalted in the sign of Capricorn? That is Mars. And Mars is exalted with Jupiter. So Jupiter's Neech Bhang is there. Similarly, let us check for Mercury. For Mercury, the exalted planet in Pisces is Venus, and Venus is not in conjunction with Mercury. So the first rule doesn't apply for Mercury. Now let us look into the second rule. The second rule states that if the dispositor of a debilitated planet is aspecting that planet or it is in conjunction with the planet, the debilitation is cancelled. Now, over here for Jupiter, the dispositor is Saturn, and Saturn is aspecting Jupiter through his third aspect. So the second rule also stands for Jupiter. Now let us check the rule for Mercury. For Mercury, the dispositor is Jupiter, and the dispositor is not having any aspect on Mercury because Jupiter aspects the 5th, the 7th, and the 9th from itself. Again, the Neech Bhang rule of Mercury doesn't apply over here. Now there is a third rule. What is the classical third rule states? The classical third rule states that if the dispositor is in Kendra with the ascendant or from the moon, the Neech Bhanga Rajyoga happens. Now over here, you will find from ascendant, Saturn is not placed within the ascendant. From moon, Saturn is also not there within the Kendras. So the third principle doesn't stand. Now it is said that if more than two or more than two rules are satisfied in a chart for Neech Bhang Rajyoga will happen. And here you see Jupiter is satisfying two rules. So a Neech Bhanga Rajyoga is happening. Now let us analyze Jupiter's Neech Bhanga Rajyoga, the effect in her chart. Because the whole chart will act as a whole. Only one planet cannot make you the man or the person you are. You see, Jupiter is ruling two houses, that is the first house, herself, and the fourth house, where Mercury is placed in the sign of Pisces. Since Jupiter is with Mars conjunct and is aspected by Saturn, along with Moon. That is what the D1 chart is telling. Now, Jupiter is the significator of a lot of things. Jupiter is the significator of children. Jupiter is the significator of husband. Jupiter is the significator of wisdom, of knowledge, of wealth also. Venus primarily of wealth, luxury and wealth. Jupiter is also a significator of wealth and many things. So which significator of Jupiter is actually receiving the blessing and which significator of Jupiter is not receiving the blessing? You will see the whole life of Queen Elizabeth II is a very rigid life. She was never to the heir to the throne. She was in third in succession when her grandfather ruled. It is because of her uncle who was abdicated. Her father became the king and later on she became the queen. She was in deep love at the age of 14, I think so, with Prince Philip, who was a Greek prince. And you can find out Rahu is positioned in the 7th house. So the marriage was a bit of controversy in that time. You can check the internet. It will be stated there that the marriage was a bit of controversy. You will find one thing. Moon is positioned in the 8th house in the D1 chart. But in Bhava Tripati chart, the moon has shifted to the 7th house. So it was a deep relationship. It was a very warm relationship between her and the husband. While Prince Philip did had some controversies in his life, but that is not a part of discussion in this chart. And you will find that the 9th house lord is actually positioned in the 5th house in the D1 chart, which is excellent for the children. But if you look into the Bhavatsripati chart, this sun has moved into the 3rd house. So she will have some karma associated with her children, especially her younger child, Prince Andrew, who was in controversy, and you can find all those controversies. I do not want to go into the details of those controversies. Her sister, Princess Margaret, was forced to rule out a marriage to the person he loved and was married to someone else. She was that much rigid because Mars is conjunct with Jupiter as well as Saturn is aspecting Jupiter. Saturn itself is positioned in the 12th house in the D1 chart, but you will find this Saturn has moved in 10th house in the Chalit chart. So her karma was very, very rigid. She was very orthodox, and that is seen through her whole life. If I'm going to analyze the whole chart, it would be a daunting task for this video because I would be taking more than 2 hours for that. And that is not the part of this video. It is to understand that the Neech Bhanga happened and this Neech Bhanga actually secured her position as queen. She was not supposed to be the queen, but her life lesson was depicted by the whole chart as a whole, not only by the Neech Bhanga Rajyoga. Neech Bhanga Rajyoga only helped her to secure the throne. You will find a lot of controversies. Princess Diana is there, blindly telling that the Neech Bhanga Rajyoga is the only factor that will help you grow and succeed in life and become comfortable. No. It will bless that portion of life which you are not destined for, but the whole chart as a whole will speak the truth. Let us take a wild example over here. Someone unknown, not Queen Elizabeth, but having a Taurus ascendant. For Taurus ascendant, you will find Jupiter rules the 8th house and the 11th house, which is not a Yogkarak. And this Jupiter is debilitated and is having a Neech Bhanga Rajyoga. When Mars is associated as well as Saturn is aspecting. Do you think that this chart, Rajyoga, will of much use? Even Neech Bhanga is helping? No. Because for a Taurus ascendant, Jupiter is not a Yogkarak. It's your enemy. And you want your enemy to be of low power, not of high power. So not everywhere Neech Bhanga Rajyoga will yield the result, or Neech Bhanga is good. You will want your enemy to be weak. You will want the planet which is your Marak, which is not your Yogkarak, to be not that strong. You will want your friend, you will want your Yogkarak planet to be powerful. So here, in this scenario, the Neech Bhanga is of no use. Yes, in this case, Neech Bhanga will produce you struggle regarding the 9th house and the 11th house. And that effect will be seen in the 9th house itself. And 9th house is the house of your father, of your dharma. So blindly stating that Neech Bhanga Rajyoga is good or Neech Bhanga is good, that's where we should draw the line. Now moving on to our next example. For the second example, we are taking our Prime Minister Narendra Modi's birth chart. Though there are some discrepancies regarding his birth time, but still let us look into the Neech Bhanga Rajyoga. Narendra Modi ji is of Scorpio rising. And you will find that moon in Scorpio is debilitated. And the first rule doesn't apply over here because no planet is actually exalted in the sign of Scorpio. So the second rule is if the dispositor of this sign of Scorpio, that is Mars, is in conjunct with or is aspecting moon, you will find that Mars, yes, it is conjuncting moon. So the Neech Bhang happens. But the question arises, I have told you that there should be two or more than two rules to follow. Over here, you will find that Mars is in Kendra with ascendant, that is in the first house itself. Also, Mars is in Kendra with moon in the first house. So three conditions actually are being satisfied. I do not take the third condition for Scorpio moon debilitation. I do not take that moon sign very seriously because for Mars to be in conjunct with moon, it has to be always in the Kendras. Even if I refine the rule, we will find that two rules are satisfied, and that is why Neech Bhanga Rajyoga is happening. And you will find that Mr. Narendra Modi became the Prime Minister of India when he was running into Moon Mahadasha. No political statements in my chat, please. I request you. We are doing it to understand the Neech Bhanga Rajyoga. We will find that during the days of Prime Ministership, the first phase of Prime Ministership, when he was running into Moon Mahadasha, that is, if you can check from the timeline below, Moon Mahadasha started from 2011 and it ended on 2021. Now he is running into Mars Mahadasha. How will the Mars Mahadasha perform is a different video. If I'm going to give you a very little hint about it, I don't want to be controversial over here. Moon was softness. Moon was acceptance. Mars is aggressive. Up chronology samjhiye. I'm not going to speak more about that. But yeah, this is a Neech Bhanga Rajyoga happening in his chart. So I think by now you're clear what are the requirements of Neech Bhang and when the Neech Bhang turns into a Neech Bhang Rajyoga. Now suppose this was not Mr. Modi's chart and the ascendant changed to say Sagittarius, like Queen Elizabeth, Sagittarius ascendant. We will find the Neech Bhanga Rajyoga still happening. Neech Bhang still happening, not a Rajyoga. Neech Bhang still happening because Moon is in conjunct with Mars. But is Moon in the Sagittarius ascendant a benefic planet? No, because it rules the 8th house and it is positioned in the 12th house. Yeah, a Viparit Rajyog takes place, but it is not a very good house for Moon. And we don't want Moon to be powerful enough. If a person's chart is a Sagittarius ascendant and Moon is having Neech Bhang, the thing is not at all favorable for him. The whole chart will speak, as I've told in Queen Elizabeth's case, the whole chart dynamics will speak, but not a single planet. The single planet never rules a chart. So in conclusion, we can say that Neech Bhang is there, but Neech Bhang Rajyoga is a different thing. There should be two or more conditions to Neech Bhanga to make it a Neech Bhanga Rajyoga. Also, you have to see whether the planet which is debilitated is a Yogkarak planet or a benefic planet or your friendly planet in the horoscope. If it is an enemy planet, if it is not a Yogkarak planet, then the Neech Bhang will not have that effect. Also, you have to look into the dashas. You have to have the support, dasha support, in order to manifest this yoga. All these things combined make a Neech Bhanga Rajyoga. There is a specific method in KP astrology where we can find that whether this Neech Bhanga Rajyoga will happen or not by seeing its nakshatra lord. But this is not the topic of this video. I don't want to just expand this video long and just explain all those principles because KP is a different principle from Parashari. If you want, I can make a separate video on that, explaining how KP principles pinpoints the Neech Bhanga happens or not. Thank you for your patience. Let's meet again in the next video.